Hey guys, this is RolloutReviews with RolloutReviews bringing you another BIONICLE review. This time it's set number 70791, Skull Warrior. This set contains 102 pieces and retails for about $15 US. The Skull Warriors are the rank and file of Skull Grinder's army. Animated by his dark power, these skeletons shamble relentlessly into battle, and only a fool does not fear the Skull Warriors. What they lack in strength, they more than make up for in numbers. Even when knocked down, these fearless fighters will keep coming back to freeze the bones of all but the bravest heroes. Jumping right in, we'll start by going over the construction in detail from the bottom up. The feet are the same small variety found on the protectors, but with the addition of trans-orange claws on the toes. These can be moved up and down, providing a little bit of useful stability in certain poses. You'll notice that the legs are asymmetrical, a common theme across this set. While I wasn't too keen on that at first, I suppose it gives off the impression that these are skeletons that have been haphazardly cobbled together, and I've warmed up to that idea considerably. On the left knee, there's a new piece of armor found in gunmetal. It's bulbous, angular, sinister, and tribal. While there's a significant lack of piston or hinge greebles on its surface, the complex vented design leaves it looking bionicle enough for me. There are also some new silver CCBS bone pieces, which are literally bone pieces. They're clean, simple, and give all the baddies in this wave a unique withered look. The open ball joint at the end of the part also means that when it's used in elbows and knees, more often than not, you're greeted with both a bend and a rotation. The upper right leg and lower left leg are made up of regular translight blue CCBS bones with shells in the same color layered on top. To me, it makes it look like parts of the skeletal structure are frozen in solid ice. Moving on up. On the torso, you have some new ribbed body armor, also in translight blue. I absolutely love the way this piece catches light. 6 ribs are visible with the chest plate attached, and 2 more are hidden underneath. Now, just like a good portion of the Winterwave Toa, there are a couple of exposed ball joints found on either side of the chest. I've sorta just come to expect these at this point. Although, I suppose that doesn't make the problem any better. The printing on the chest piece is actually really well done. I like the teeth accents bolted onto the tattered chainmail, and the links of chain hanging off to one side. Beyond the armor in the foreground, you can see some techno-organic piston ribs underneath. I'm not entirely sure how that would be beneficial to a bone structure, but what do I know? From behind, there aren't any armor shells filling out the back. Although, to be honest, while something like that is nice to see, I wouldn't say it's essential, as I don't often view these sets from the rear. On the left shoulder, there's a mounting point used to store either of the included weapons. The yellow gear on the back has also been extended to accommodate storage of the bow, but we'll take a look at all of that a little bit later. The left arm is pretty much entirely comprised of the new bone pieces, making it look truly skeletal. This arm is also so skimpy on armor that the articulation here is more or less completely unhindered. The right side features a large shoulder pad, a blue CCBS bone, and an orange shell. Personally, I think the overlapping translucent plastics sort of clash. In fact, some people might think that the addition of trans-orange at all, outside of maybe the eyes, seems odd to begin with. At first I was inclined to agree, but then I realized it as some sort of inherent connection to the prominently trans-orange Skull Grinder, who allegedly gave this warrior life with his, nondescript dark power. Or something like that. The set includes 2 masks, the first of which is an all-new mold. It's a spooky skull mask! The details are sharp and angular, and I love the multiple textures, both gritty matte and shiny smooth. There are some subtle mechanical greebles on either side of the jaw, and the vented mouthplate gives off the illusion of gritted teeth. As far as I know, it doesn't give the wearer any kind of special powers, and it's just for decoration. Perhaps some kind of ancient tribal burial mask. Whatever the case, it makes this guy sort of look like a freaky T-800, and of the 2 new skull masks in this wave, I think this one is my favorite. The face underneath is the same one we've already seen, but each of the villains feature this new eye color. These trans-orange optics offer some dark, sinister light piping, and just like before, pressing on the back of the eye stalk will pop off the mask. The second included mask is a recolor of Kopaka's that fades into trans-light blue towards the top, which is a neat effect. All of the $15 skull villains come with something similar, but this one in particular doesn't seem to have any story significance. It's meant to represent Warrior draining Kopaka's elemental energy through the link the Master shares with his mask. Unfortunately, this never actually happens in the book or the animations. For all intensive purposes, this mask is not technically canon, which is sort of strange. It seems to exist solely just so that Warrior comes with a second mask, just like everyone else, and for no other reason. That entirely aside, it looks fine being worn, but personally I think it's best displayed being held by Skull Warrior as a trophy. Of course, an illegitimate counterfeit trophy forged on a bed of lies. But don't tell him that. It makes him feel special. Now for the weapons. The main armament is the massive freeze bow. The limbs are long skeletal spikes, and the 6-barreled rapid shooter has been recolored from the standard dark gray into a matching trans-light blue. Both its construction and functionality are very similar to Vizuna's Airflame bow and Nilku's Sandblaster. The end is free spinning from the gear in the middle, and the handle towards the front includes a pivot, allowing the figure to hold the bow and pose well without accidental misfires. By turning the center shaft, the 6 white studs launch from the barrel in succession. This ammo is tiny and has some decent range, so definitely keep an eye out and try not to lose track of them. Just in case, however, the set comes with 7 extras. The second weapon is a simple ice spear with a new, jagged and gnarly looking hook blade on the end. This is designed specifically to work its way behind a Toa's mask and yank it off with ease. When the freeze bow is being held in 2 hands, the ice spear stores onto the back via the pin axle on the left shoulder. This allows some options as far as the tilt angle goes. If you want him to wield this weapon, there is a little bit of a process, and a couple ways of going about it. The first way is to remove the blade and lower half of the shaft, leaving the central connector on the back. Next, plug the bow onto that piece using the dark gray axle and attach the 2 parts of the spear to the hand. This method has the bow elevated higher up on the back and the handle hanging over his shoulder, but means the axle on the end of the spear is left open, allowing you to support the weapon with both hands. The second way involves removing the spear entirely, disassembling the bow slightly, plugging it onto the back with the now exposed pinhole, and storing the additional piece somewhere else, before finally arming him with the ice spear like so. I think this option is less elegant, but otherwise more accurate to the picture on the back of the box. Undoubtedly, the bow seated lower on the back looks a whole lot better, but the axle extender on the end of the spear does limit your options slightly. Unless, of course, you remove that too. The level of parts forming this method requires does annoy me a little. It's worth mentioning that the instructions don't actually illustrate how to do any of this, so technically neither option is wrong. I guess it's just up to interpretation. Once all is said and done, this set also has a gear function to boot. Turning the yellow gear on the back swings the right arm up and down. There are a couple of smaller gears below the shoulder to provide some additional friction, which keeps the arm from falling out of position or flopping around. Of course, the gimmick is fun, simple, and great to have, but somewhat old news. After 6 sets from the first wave with more or less the same exact feature, it's become a little less novel to me. On top of that, it's practically useless when the figure is wielding the bow. This set plays it safe. It doesn't break any grounds, sticks to what we've seen before, and for the most part, it's all par for the course. Skull Warrior just doesn't do anything all that special. But you know what? I am totally fine with that, because he doesn't really do anything wrong either. Personally, I think he's got one of the best visual designs out of the entire wave, and if nothing else, the set has options. And options are valuable, especially for a set that's meant to be army-built like this one. With multiples, you can have at least 3 side by side, all with slightly different variations to their weapons layout. One warrior wields their bow, a second warrior holds their spear in one hand, a third brandishes their spear with 2, etc., etc. I can definitely recommend adding at least one Skull Warrior to your collection, but provided you've got the extra cash and space, I legitimately think a couple extras might be worth considering. I'm just not sure what you'd do with the horde of fake Kopaka masks. Anyway, that is about it, guys, and this is IX Roll at IX, signing off.